Well, India's economic journey has been remarkable, and the $3 trillion milestone has been achieved in a shorter span of 5 years in 2019. Now, despite the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing geopolitical issues, the size of the Indian economy stands at around $3.5 trillion. Now, the banking sector will have to play a pivotal role if India has to achieve the target of becoming the $5 trillion economy. The sector will have to leverage technology, innovative banking models, and capital sourcing for India Inc. Now, the upcoming Banking Transformation Summit scheduled to take place on 23rd of August in Mumbai aims to explore the opportunities presented by the changing macroeconomic environment and showcase India's potential. The theme for the summit, Roadmap for India's $5 trillion economy and beyond, resonates with the government's goal of achieving this milestone by FY27. Now, in the run-up to the summit, today we are in our studio for a very special conversation with the leadership of Nucleus Software, a pioneer for intellectual property in financial technology for over 3 decades now. We have with us Mr. Vishnu R. Dusal, who is one of the founders of Nucleus Software Exports. He has served as a director since the inception of the company. His success in concluding business deals for implementing Nucleus products globally owes much to a deep sensitivity to cross-cultural nuances and his experience encompassing areas of software development, creation of strategic alliances, business development, and strategic planning. On that note, Mr. Dusal, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure hosting you here. We're only days away now as far as the banking summit is concerned. We're all looking forward to it. We're all excited. But in the build-up to that, let's start building the conversations about some of the issues that will come up there, what one can expect, what the audience can expect. Beginning first, let's talking about you. You are at the heart of deploying technology and technological solutions for banking needs, for banking solutions. Give us a sense of some of the areas on how you are deploying this technology, what shape and form this will take over the next few years, and what are the challenges that you're seeking to address by deploying this technology.
Thanks, Ashmit, for those generous words. We've been fortunate to have played a role in transformation of Indian banking industry for now 3 decades. We were one of the pioneers of creating intellectual property, and the term itself was completely unheard of in the IT industry then, as it remains still unheard of 3 decades later, where we felt that unless we create intellectual property for our own needs, we will have to spend billions of dollars to import that technology.
Sure.
And that is where we started developing intellectual property. And we are very fortunate to feel proud of the fact that the banking industry in India has given us the responsibility to host 40 lakh crores worth of retail assets on our platform.
Wow.
Yes, it is a wow number. We also didn't realize it. And what is more important is, if we were to take an interest rate of just 10%, we are creating an income of a revenue of 4 lakh crores for the banking industry. This not only helps the banking industry, but it helps the entire economy, because these are the loans given for automobiles, for mortgages, for education, for personal loans, and so on. And all these loans, they create further economic fall-off. So, having created this kind of ecosystem over these decades, we feel that we now are in a position to take this technology to the bottom of the pyramid, because that's where there is a challenge that continues still.
Sure.
If we were to look at, let's say, someone on the street wanting to borrow 1,000 rupees, it is a huge challenge for the person to borrow that small sum of money.
Okay.
To begin with, the challenge is huge, and then the interest rate, if at all he or she is able to borrow it, the interest rates are going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Those could be as basic as 365% per annum, and they can go up to 3,650% per annum. Because while these numbers sound very completely unbelievable, when we look at it from a perspective that if we were to charge 1% per day, it straight away turns into 365%, and there are situations where someone has to borrow at 10% per day, and that is what 3,650% is all about. So we need to focus on making sure that these people, they are able to borrow at some reasonable rates of interest, let's say 50%. Even that would be a huge saving for them.
Sure.
And in the process, they would be able to contribute in a far bigger way to the economy, and our dream of taking economy to $5 trillion and beyond we would be able to achieve much faster. And we are putting all our resources, all our thinking to make sure that this happens over next 3 to 5 years.
Indeed, that's a very challenging target of $5 trillion. But these are some of the banking solutions, if deployed at scale. For instance, you were pointing out at the retail level, at the grassroots level, and that is what will perhaps turn us towards and point us in the direction of $5 trillion. But you were speaking of technology, Mr. Dusad. The conversation in 2023, when you mentioned technology, the buzzword is AI and ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Give us a sense from your experience. How have the last couple of years looked in terms of deployment of this technology? How is it being developed? How is it being deployed? And what could the banking landscape look like, say, perhaps 5 years from now with the deployment of AI and ML?
AI and ML clearly are milestones in growth of computer software or computer information technology as a whole. These have been in works for now almost 5 decades, as they say. However, this is a point where the industry and in fact the global economy is now seized of this particular opportunity, including the banking industry. Where does artificial intelligence help? It helps making sense from data. Till the time artificial intelligence came into being, all the intelligence for all practical purposes had to be applied by the human beings, and the computers would do whatever the human beings are asking them to do. Now, here is a paradigm shift where we are saying that the instructions need not be given by the human beings. The instructions would be picked up by the computers, going through the volumes of data and creating patterns from there. And that is the power of artificial intelligence. These computers are being trained at some crazy pace using some crazy computing power, and using that pace and that power, computers are learning at again at a crazy pace. And that's where we at Nucleus have been experimenting with these solutions for a few years now. So, for example, I'll just mention a couple of them. Let's say we want to automate routine payments for an individual. So I get a postpaid bill of let's say 500 rupees for my mobile, and I want to make sure that I don't I don't need to be involved myself in making that payment. That 1 second also I want to save. So what do? I give instructions to the computer, and then every month, month after month, that 500, 600 rupees they keep getting paid. But the moment instead of 500, the computer gets to see a bill of 5,000 rupees, immediately it will learn from the pattern in the past that no, there is something wrong here. And then that 5,000 rupees bill will be brought to my notice. And that is how we are able to save those seconds and minutes for hundreds of transactions, but at the same time we are able to make sure that some anomalies are getting detected.
Sure. This in fact leads in very nicely into my next question. You mentioned about how time saving it can be as far as deployment of technology is concerned, that being one example. Let's also talk about deployment of this technology, not necessarily AI ML, but rather the digital push that we're seeing by the banking sector. How does that translate into customer care, into more personalized banking as far as customers are concerned?
No, that's a brilliant question. What is happening today is, as we have seen, we have reached a benchmark of now 10 billion transactions per month. Okay. Now, this is a mind-blowing benchmark that we have been able to achieve in such a short span of time. And thanks to those 1,000 crore transactions per month, I mean, which are continue to grow for next few years at least, we are in a position to create patterns about the individuals who are doing those transactions. So, be it individual as a consumer, or be it individual or a micro enterprise as a merchant. We are in a position to create patterns about the individuals, the merchants, and thanks to that those patterns, we have products like Finexia, that is our transaction banking platform. Thanks to those patterns, we would be able to make out whether this person is worthy of being extended that 1,000 rupee loan, and if yes, at what rate of interest. And that loan, when made available over his mobile, you can imagine how personalized it would be and how helpful it will be. And that is what our other product, which is our, I talked about the 40 lakh crores worth of loan, FinOne, that is where it comes handy. And we will be able to service the masses. We are talking about tens of crores of loans and tens of crores of individuals and small and medium, micro, small and medium enterprises. We will be able to service them in a very extremely personalized manner thanks to the technology.
Right, Mr. Dusad, it's an interesting point that you make there, but we'll continue this conversation on the Banking Transformation Summit in just a wee bit. But at that note, we need to slip into a very short break. We'll continue this conversation with Mr. Dusad on the Banking Transformation Summit on the other side. Keep watching. Welcome back to this special broadcast right here on CNBC TV18. We're in conversation with Mr. Vishnu Dusad. He's giving us a sense of the role that Nucleus Software is playing in terms of changing and transforming, as the title says, the Banking Transformation Summit scheduled for August 23rd. Mr. Dusad, market trends and consumer demand, these are two variables which are always evolving. They're never static. Given the evolutionary pace of the evolutionary nature rather of these two tangents, give us a sense of how you need to keep innovating to address and provide some of these solutions to number one, customer demand, and number two, market trends.
Ensuring that there is an environment for innovation is the core behind creating an environment which nurtures innovation. So, what we do is enable our teams to keep thinking, keep learning, keep scanning the environment on an ongoing basis. Our teams are enabled to understand what is happening in the environment, not just in India, but all over the world. They travel to a variety of conferences, they go to a variety of countries. Incidentally, our implementations, they happen to be in 50 odd countries, right from Australia, Japan, through Southeast Asia, Middle East, Europe, and both the Americas. So, our teams travel to all these countries, they understand what the requirements are in different geographies, and then they keep coming up with ideas which are then intensely debated internally.
Sure.
And that is how we are able to come out with solutions which are highly appreciated by our customers. So, providing freedom providing freedom to discuss, debate, and learn from each other, learn from the environment. These are the I would say critical elements for creating products that are so innovative.
Mr. Dusad, one of the aspects which I'd like to bring your attention to that we're increasingly seeing in the banking space over the last 36 odd months has been fintech and digital banking. They're the buzzwords in the banking space. We're seeing the push for digital, not only in terms of banking operations, but also in terms of outreach, in terms of providing that retail outreach. Just a sense from you, how are you positioning Nucleus Software when there's a rush, when there's a push for digital banking and digital solutions?
That's an excellent question, Ashmit. What is happening is over the last now 3 to 5 years, fintechs, the financial services industry, technology providers like us, which have been around and providing robust solutions to the banking industry, and the consumers of this ecosystem, they have created some sort of four-way win-win, where the niche solutions that fintechs bring are being adopted by the banks using technology players like us, and in the process delivering immense value to the end customer. So, for example, there are a number of solutions in let us say credit scoring side, or number of solutions on KYC side. Now, these are all getting integrated in our solution, and collectively we are able to provide solution to the banks, which in turn deliver the value to end customers. And that is how this ecosystem is really evolving. Four-way ecosystem is growing at a very good pace.
Which brings us, Mr. Dusad, to our final question here. We are in the middle of India's presidency of the G20. This is expected by many to be a landmark moment in terms of placing India at the heart of the G20 conversation, at the heart of the global conversation. Just your take on two questions. Number one, what it means for India as a whole to be hosting the G20 presidency, to be hosting the tallest leaders in the world and building that conversation towards a global consensus, one. And two, what does this mean particularly for the banking and the financial space here in the country?
The first one, I think it's a very proud moment for all of us to host G20 this year and invite all these 20 leaders to the country, and as a build-up of that, hosting on monthly basis, different sectors of our 20 economies. So, what I feel is this is an opportunity for us to achieve, when it comes to banking and financial services space, this is an opportunity for us to demonstrate to all these 20 economies and then beyond that Indian banking industry is no longer backwaters. In fact, we are far ahead of the rest of the world. We can very proudly say that, because there would not be too many economies in the world where a 10-second loan is possible. And we are proud of the fact that it is our FinOne which is enabling that to happen. And likewise, the payment transactions, retail payment transactions that we've talked about and that we are experiencing on daily basis. Some of the economies are years behind us, and that is how France and UAE hopefully have already agreed to implement our solutions.
Yes.
So, we need to demonstrate to them how exactly this is happening and how we are ready to offer those solutions for these G20 economies. I still remember my conversation with President Lula some 15 years back when he was visiting, and I talked about our solutions for micro lending, and he was the kind of keenness that he had shown for those solutions to be implemented in Brazil. Incidentally, we do have a implementation in Brazil as well.
Right, that was Mr. Vishnu Dasad of Nucleus Software setting the agenda for the Banking Transformation Summit. I dare say he set the tone. And on that note, do make a note of that. August 23rd is when CNBC TV18 will be hosting the Banking Transformation Summit. But that, unfortunately, is all the time that we have on this special broadcast. For more news and updates, keep watching CNBC TV18.